Good evening, everyone, and I am Miss Charles. I would be the facilitator for our Maths Monday sessions, all of the sessions. Before I formally introduce myself, I want to apologize for not being able to facilitate what was supposed to be our first session. And I also want to apologize for my background noises. Right, so each session should last for approximately 45 minutes to an hour. I'm trying not to go beyond that so that you would not be oversaturated. So we are streaming live on YouTube, and of course I have some of my students logged in on Zoom. So again, my name is Ms. Charles. I graduated from the University of Trinidad with a Bachelor's of Applied Science degree in manufacturing engineering. I am currently pursuing my Master's of Science in Innovative Design and Entrepreneurship. So those are some of the qualifications that I currently have. I also studied advanced youth development. So I have a certificate in that, and I did a National Engineering Technician's Diploma in Mechanical Engineering, also from University of Trinidad. So just to give you a quick gist as to who I am, I have been tutoring for approximately 8 years. And in 2020, myself and a group of other teachers started the entity that is now Drillers Private Tutoring. So under the Drillers Private Tutoring umbrella, I have been teaching or tutoring for almost 3 years. Mathematics is a passion for me, so it comes naturally. I love it. And that is one of the major reasons why I'm here to be with you. So give me a second while I post my presentation so that we may start today's session. As you would have probably seen in the flyers or in the flyer, these sessions are really to cover the fundamentals of mathematics. So we are not going too advanced or too in-depth into some of the major topics. We're just looking at basics, fundamentals, some of the things, and how I came up with the list of things that I want to cover is that there are things that I find some of my students are having trouble with, and I decided to go through these simple, basic, fundamental topics. I know that these topics would help some of my students, and by extension, anybody who really needs assistance in mathematics or finds mathematics to be a troubling subject. So as we proceed with the session, I will be turning off my camera because I would not want to be a distraction to what we're about to learn today. Feel free to comment So those of you who are logged in on Zoom, you can comment in the chat. And those of you who are logged in on our live stream on our YouTube channel, you can also feel free to comment anything that you would like me to revisit, review, or any topic at all that you would like me to do in general. And while you're there, don't forget to like and subscribe and of course share with anyone who you think would benefit from these live free sessions. Also, they will be recorded and posted on our YouTube channel. So all of these sessions will be recorded and posted for future reference. So some of the things or the topics that we would like to review today or look at today are classification of numbers. And of course, if we have enough time, we will look at fractions. So in classification of numbers, we're going to cover natural numbers, whole numbers, integers, or integer numbers, also called integer numbers. We're going to look at rational numbers and fractions. And of course, in classification, there are also irrational numbers, real numbers, and complex or imaginary numbers, which we are not going to look at. So those three subtopics that are listed in red, we are not going to look at those numbers. So we're going to keep it pretty basic. Natural numbers, whole numbers, integers or integer numbers, rational numbers. And of course, if we have enough time, if time permits, we will look at fractions. So classification of numbers at a glance. As I said, we're not going to go beyond rational numbers. So let's look at that yellow circle on the left-hand side of the screen. So at a glance, rational numbers contain integers, whole numbers, and natural numbers, which are all part of real numbers or the real number category. So now let's talk about natural numbers. Natural numbers are numbers that are used for counting or ordering. This is how we naturally count. So when you were growing up and you learned about counting, this is what you would do. Natural numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and so on. Natural numbers are also positive numbers. In natural numbers, you can separate it, as I said, into counting numbers and into ordering numbers. So counting numbers are called cardinal. So if we want to remember that, you could say C is for counting and C is for cardinal. And then ordering numbers are called ordinal numbers. So O for ordering, O for ordinal. So all cardinal numbers and ordinal numbers are under the natural number category or natural number umbrella. So let's compare cardinal and ordinal numbers. So as I said, natural numbers, how we count. Counting, we would say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and so on. And with ordinal numbers, we just say first, this is how we order. So can I have the first item on the menu? My son came second in tests. So first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and so on are ordinal numbers. This is what we use for ordering or putting things in place. So cardinal, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and so on. Ordinal, first, second, third, fourth, and fifth. So natural numbers are positive numbers that go from 1 upwards. So we start at 1, we go to 2, 3, and so on. That's the basic numbers, how we learn to count. Those are called natural numbers. Now let's talk about whole numbers. So whole numbers are natural numbers. However, this category includes 0. So if we pay attention to the number line that is on the screen, that's right in front of you, you would see that the natural number category starts from 1 and goes all the way up, and whole numbers include 0. So remember I said natural numbers are positive numbers. Whole numbers, because they include 0, we wouldn't really say yes positive, but 0 is neither positive or negative. So when we add 0, we move out of the natural number category and we go into whole numbers. So whole numbers are just natural numbers that include 0. So once we include 0, we have now reclassified our numbers from natural to whole. So whole numbers, think of that O in whole numbers include 0. Natural numbers, no 0. So N natural, we don't have any 0 there. Now let's talk about integers. So integers are numbers that include positive numbers, negative numbers, and 0. So integers, the integer system or the integer category includes natural numbers, whole numbers, which means we've introduced 0, and also includes negative numbers. Natural numbers do not include decimal and fractions. So we just have positive numbers, negative numbers, and we have 0, which is neither positive nor negative. So natural numbers, whole numbers, and of course the negative side of the number line, those all classify as integers. Now let's take a look at rational numbers. So rational numbers include natural numbers, so that is 1 upwards, so positive numbers, whole numbers, so that's the inclusion of 0, integers, which is the inclusion of negative numbers, and it also includes fractions and decimals. So there are some examples of rational numbers on the screen. So 1/2, that's a rational number. 0.25, which is a decimal, that's a rational number. 1, which is a positive number and also a natural number, is a rational number as well. 0, which is neither positive or negative, can be considered a rational number. -17, rational. -0.999. So rational numbers, again, include whole numbers, natural numbers, integers. So everything that we would have discussed before falls into the natural number category. And it also includes fractions and decimals. So before I move on, I'm just going to look to see if anyone commented. Right, no comments need to respond to yet. So it seems like we're moving nicely with time because it's just a few minutes past 6 p.m. So now we can move from rational numbers. And of course, as I said, all of these sessions will be recorded and posted on our YouTube channel. So of course, if you do not understand or you think you need to review something, you can always pause the video, or you can go back, pause, or you can go back to revisit any part of the classification that you would like to understand and you would like to grasp if you haven't grasped it. Now let's talk about fractions. Fractions are numbers that consist of two integers and they represent a portion of a whole. So fractions consist of two integers and they represent a portion of the whole. So let's get a better understanding of fractions. Give me a second, please. My apologies, just a little bit of technical difficulties, right? So we're going back to fractions. So just to recap, fractions are numbers that consist of two integers and they represent a portion of a whole. So I'm going to explain that further. So let's just say, for example, we have a circular cake. And I cut that cake into two equal parts. So excuse my drawing, it's not perfect. Right, so I cut that cake into two equal parts. This is one whole that has been cut into two. So if I were to give you one of these pieces, how I would represent that as a fraction is that I would put one piece of 2 parts. So I've cut that whole into 2 parts and I've given you one of that 2 portion of the 2 portions. So 1/2 just tells us that you have one piece of what was originally 2. And we call this 1/2 or a half. So I've given you a half. That's a fraction. So 2 integers, 1 and 2, is how this fraction has been formed, or are the integers that this fraction consists of. So this fraction is called a half. I have given you one piece of my 2 pieces. So you have one of the 2. So that's called 1/2 or half. However, if I take that same circular cake and I cut it into 4 equal parts, and I give you one of those 4 pieces, then I can represent that as 1/4. So we call that fraction is called a quarter. So I have given you a quarter of my cake. So you have 1 part of my 4 parts. That is called, that fraction made up of 2 integers, 1 and 4, is called a quarter. So what if I cut that same whole into 8 equal parts? And let's just say I give you 3 pieces. I give you these 3 pieces that I've shaded there. Then I have 8 parts, but I have given you 3 pieces. So you have 3 parts out of 8, because 8 pieces make up the whole cake. But I have given you 3 parts out of 8. So that fraction there consists of 2 integers, 3 and 8, and we say 3/8. So you have 3/8 of the whole cake. And that is how fractions are formed. So a fraction represents a portion of a whole. So if you have 3/8, you just have 3 pieces or 3 parts or 3 portions of my whole that is made up of 8 parts. So these 2 integers of our fractions, remember we said that a fraction is made up of 2 integers. It consists of 2 integers that represents a portion of a whole. Now these 2 integers have special names. So this particular fraction that we have is called 20/57. The 20 that is on top is called the numerator. So the number or the integer that is on top is called the numerator. So this is telling me that this is the amount I have, or this is the amount that I have given you. This is the amount that we have. So the number that is on top is called the numerator, and it represents the amount that you have. The number below is called the denominator, and it represents the amount of the whole. So how many other parts you've cut your whole into, that will be your denominator. So like I've showed you previously, firstly we first cut the circle or the cake or the whole cake into 2. So our denominator was 2. Then we cut it into 4 equal parts, and our denominator became 4. Then we took that same whole and we cut it into 8 equal parts, so our denominator was 8. So based on this fraction that you are seeing here, 20 over 57, how many parts do you think we've cut that whole into? Can you guess? Yes, this 57 or this denominator tells us that we've cut that whole, whatever it is, whether it's a whole circle, a whole square, a whole triangle, whatever our whole is, we have cut that whole into 57 equal parts. So this line that separates our numerator from our denominator, there's no special name for that line, but it's just like a division. It's more or less a representation of division. So we've divided our whole into 57 parts, and we have 20 of these 57. So the entire thing is called a fraction. The number on top is called the numerator, and the number below is called the denominator. So just to recap what we would have covered today, we looked at so in today's session, we looked at classification of numbers, and we went up to integers, rational numbers and fractions. So we went all the way up to fractions. So two of these topics that we did not cover was irrational numbers and complex numbers, which we will not be looking at this level. So we just wanted to do the basic. So we would have looked at natural numbers, whole numbers, integers, and rational numbers or fractions. Because rational numbers, of course, includes fractions, right? And we would have gone further in depth into fractions. So of course, if this video brought any value to you, feel free to feel welcome, of course, to subscribe. And if you think that there are any topics that you would like me to cover, as long as I think it's basic enough, I would try my best to cover it. Of course, these sessions will not be going beyond January, because as I told you before, I am currently pursuing my master's. I'm on the verge of completing that master's, and this semester will be my final semester. So I will be starting back school from early February. So it will be very difficult for me to continue. This is just my way of giving back and showing what we do at Jewelers Private Tutoring. So again, thank you for joining me. Thank you for joining us. Feel free to comment, feel free to like, subscribe, share with anyone else who these videos or these sessions can bring value to. And of course, follow us on all of our social media platforms. So we are on Instagram, and we are also on Facebook at Drillers PT. So P for private and T for tutoring. And for all of our viewers who are not familiar with Drillers Private Tutoring, we are reaching out to you from the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. So, I mean, I would not have said that previously, but we are a Trinidadian company. We are located at the bottom of the archipelago, the Caribbean archipelago. So feel free, as I said, to like, subscribe, and follow us on all of our social media platforms. So the handle is at Drillers, DRILLERS, P as in private and T as in tutoring, Drillers PT. Thank you for joining me, and I will see you next week, Monday, at 6 p.m. So next week, Monday, will be the 23rd of January, promptly at 6 p.m. And of course, these sessions will be will be recorded and posted on our YouTube channel. Bye. Have a good evening, everyone.